can I share the this thing? My
Yes, you can share your screen. You've been given all the privileges to share the screen. So,
okay, just a minute.
you will see a blue share button at the bottom.
Okay,
It's working. We can see it.
working. Okay. Our team is made up of Mr. R.J. Singh, the secretary of our trust, and a great art connoisseur. The second member is Dr. Dilip KCR Gowda, a medical doctor who is pursuing his higher studies in the US. And the third member is, of course, myself. We three together have done the field work to search for board games. I reimagined the board games by doing design intervention, then by giving new designs to the practitioners of traditional crafts. Mr. Singh commissions craft persons in different craft clusters across India and gets the products. Then these varied products are brought together so that they are aesthetically and economically viable and packaged into eco-friendly packaging. Then these products are sold at our store as well as special game exhibitions that we organized every couple of years by our trust. We are constantly striving to bring awareness about our designs and products through social media as well. With this brief intro, let us delve deeply into our project and especially the design aspect of it. Now, most of the traditional board games require next to nothing to play if we are resourceful that is. Here, some mendicants and roadside vagabonds have scribbled 3 game patterns of 16 sepoys side by side. And as you can see, once you are done with the game, you can just simply abandon it and walk off into the sunset. And here you can see you can just scribble the game pattern on the floor with a piece of chalk, split a couple of tamarind seeds, grab some equal sized pebbles or twigs, and you're ready to play the game of Chokabara. As you can see here, the kids are doing and enjoying themselves at that.
Raghu, we are not seeing your slides change. We can't see your slides change.
Is it? Okay, just a minute. I shared it. It is changing on my this thing.
Okay. Can you just kind of use the scroll bar and can you just kind of stop the slideshow? And yes, now they're changing. Now they're changing. Yeah.
Okay, and then I will do right here itself on the screen. I will not make a show. Okay, this is the place in Huligi where we found mendicants and vagabonds. They had played 3 games of 16 sepoys on the road, and they have just abandoned after they finished it. And here in the next slide, you can see these children in Channapatna. They have scribbled a game pattern with a piece of chalk. Used couple of tamarind seeds, split them to use as the casting pieces. Use pebbles or twigs to play with. And next, here is an interesting picture. These ladies are at a local temple in premises in Anegundi. They were gambling on this game of Chaukabara with 50 paise and 25 paise coins as stakes. They had cleverly used 1 foot by 1 foot the floor tiles which were paved on the ground in that temple, and using the leaf sap, they have drawn the game grid and they have played, and they were just so resourceful. That's what I'm saying. When you are resourceful, you can play even if you don't have anything. You can conjure up a game board and play with it. So simple these game boards are. Next, if we go to this next picture, we found this at Badami. It's a common watering hole And men have in fact painted the game pattern on the floor. Enjoy the game while your favorite drink is being brewed on the stove. So as simple as that. So, and this is the simplified version of a game pattern. If you have nothing, you can just scribble on the floor and play and just walk off. That's all. But there are some other aspect. There is another aspect of these game board tradition where we have come across veritable treasure troves of game boards and accessories that were richly crafted for rich patrons like kings, courtiers, merchants, etc. Some old specimens can be seen even today um, in museums and private collections. For example, this is a ivory inlaid chess table with ivory chessmen. This belongs to the Lingaraja, the king of Kor. And next, here we have the portable game box having 11 games. If you just open tier by tier, it opens up into layers, um, showing different games and game patterns. About 11 game boards can be played in this game box alone, and this is in the collection of Victoria and Albert Museum, and this has been presented by Mummadi Krishnaraj Vadera of Mysore to the Queen of England. So next, this is a collection in our Ramsons Kala Pratishtana. This is a very colorful game board of Pagaday or Pachisi with ivory casting pieces and lathe-turned wooden pawns. And the picture over here is showing the semi-precious stone game pawns of Pagaday or Pachisi inlaid with gold and precious stones. And this was gifted to Nizam of Hyderabad during one of his birthday. So these are the variety of rich and culturally rich and even in craft form, if you see very rich game boards and game accessories. India had a rich legacy of game boards and accessories being crafted as luxury products and high art in olden days. But alas, these were no longer made except chess and backgammon nowadays. We don't know the reason why the game boards were stopped being made. But all these things made us think, why not we start getting them made again? Because we are into this business of handicrafts. We involve ourselves daily with craftsmen across the country. We interact with them. We get a lot of artworks and craft works done. So why not we try to do something with it? So with that thought, we three of us, we had this trigger and we started working towards it. And now we will delve into the designing aspect of it. Before doing the design intervention, we study the craft form and its process personally. This gives us a first-hand experience of the craft, its process, its limitations, and potentials. Based on these, I go back to the drawing table and give specific designs with specific design language, which is understandable to that specific craft worker. This helps in weeding out confusion and faulty products. I will later show you some examples where faulty designs were created because of gaps in communication. Here you are seeing a Bidri craft in process. This is the photo I took while I personally went to see the process at Bidar in Karnataka, northern Karnataka. And I came back to my drawing board and did this design. Bottom left corner, you can see Adu Huliata, that is goats and tigers. But the top right corner, it is the game board of Chaukabara, five house Chaukabara. With this design provided, the artist came up with these kinds of boards. So when they see the game pattern or the design in their visual language, it is very easy for them to work on it and they will not hesitate. Next, we went to a very interesting place near Hubballi, about 40 kilometers away, called Navalgunda. Here, the ladies work on pitloom weaving, and they weave jamkhanas. Mostly, they weave it to make jamkhana. The young girls, they learn how to do it, and by the time they get married, they will have woven one very beautiful jamkhana, which they will take after their marriage as a bridal trousseau. That is the tradition there. And these ladies, they the one on the left, what you're seeing is that traditional bridal trousseau jamkhana. And if you see in the center, there is a game board of Pachisi or Pagaday. And there are four peacocks on at four corners. They call it as char more jamkhana. This is the traditional char more pagdi jamkhana, because pagade, that is Pachisi in the center. So char more pagdi jamkhana. And studying this, I gave them this pattern on the left, what you can see here on the left. And I changed the design of the uh, peacock also. But what they did, they came up with the design. What they created is seen on the right. And if you see, they have inverted the peacock on the at the down. Both the peacocks, they are standing straight. So they have interpreted it in that way. Now I have worked with the uh, craft of this river grass mat, and I gave them the design which you can see on the left, and they came up with the product which is on the right. This is a Navakankari, game board of Navakankari. This was quite popular, and aesthetically it was beautiful. Also economically it was quite viable to be marketed in our game board exhibitions. Next, our one of the very popular game board this thing craft cluster which we have encountered, where the craft which is very popular when the game board where the game board is concerned is kalamkari. The kalamkari of Sri Kalahasti. Each and every game board is unique because it is a art in itself. Each board is an art in itself, unique. You can see here one lady is painting the board game yellow. And in now you see this game board of Pachisi or Pagaday, very beautifully worked in Kalamkari. And the gaming pieces are from Varanasi, wood lathe turned wood lathe turned pieces, and hand painted. Each one is hand painted. Now this one here is again from Kalamkari from Kalahasti. The person over there is Mr. R.J. Singh, who is checking the progress of the game boards happening. And on the bottom left, you can see one red game board. This is a 5 house Chaukabara. What is unique about this game board is, if you look at right here, at the bottom corner, right hand bottom corner, this is a painting of Mysore style Kodandarama. Kodandarama, that is Rama holding a bow in his hand with Sita, Lakshmana, and Hanuman. He's standing below. And here on top left of this painting is the Pushpaka Vimana. I have tried to incorporate this concept of Kodanda Rama painting of Mysore style in this game board. You can see on the top center is Rama, right middle is Sita, left middle is Lakshmana, bottom center is Hanuman, and in the center is the Pushpaka Vimana. This is the Ramayana game board of Chaukabara. In this way, I have tried to mix the concept of Ramayana, Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata Chaukabara, we have the five Pandavas, starting from Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva. In the similar way, we have in the seven house Chaukabara, I have tried to incorporate zodiac signs, then Dashavatara. So it is kind of an amalgamation of our epics into game boards. While they are playing, they will also recount these epics, which will also add to the experience of games. Now I move on to this next slide, which shows three game boards done in Kalamkari. The top one shows 16 sepoys. The bottom right is the famous Aduhuli or goats and tigers. And left bottom corner is the game of Kedda. I have given the name Kedda. It is men and elephant. It's a hunt game. There will be four elephants which have to be hunted down by 48 men. So this is a hunt game. The 16 Sepoys is a war game. And again, the Goats and Tigers is a hunt game. Next, we move on to the next slide where we have incorporated this snakes and ladder. Usually we see snakes and ladders in the form of a square. I came across this round form of a snakes and ladders in one of the books, and I found it very interesting, and I incorporated as a design to be given to this Kalamkari artist. They worked on it, and when we introduced this in our exhibitions, this became a runaway hit. So this is a very popular snakes and ladder version we have in our product range. Next, this is the Shanmukha Pagaday or seven-handed Pachisi, sorry, six-handed Pachisi. This six-handed Pachisi has been recorded in the game compendium by Mummadi Krishnaraj Wadeyer, the 22nd Maharaja of Mysuru, who was an avid gamer. He had a large harem, about 5 principal queens and about 16 concubines in his harem. So he wanted to have a nice time with all his queens at the same time by playing games. But the maximum number of people that can be involved in a game of Pagaday is 4. But he wanted to involve more of them. So he added 2 more arms to the game of Pagaday and made this 6-handed Pagaday. Likewise, he has made 8-handed, 12-handed, 16-handed, and 32-handed Pagaday, which is very interesting. And I'm very sure that it will take a lot of time to play and complete this game. This is another interesting game of Panchakelia, single track game. If you go to Hampi and if you just walk around the rocks and boulders there, you will find lot of these patterns of this game etched on the boulders there, and also in different formats. One will be in the form of P, B, and different formats. This is a popular format which we have converted as a game product. And this is one thing what we saw a little while back was the circular game board of Snakes and Ladder. So I have changed the design here a little bit, because Snakes and Ladders earlier it was the way the parents wanted to teach the moral theme to the children, that is good and evil things that has to be taught to the children in a fun way. So I have tried to do the same here, but what I've done is to give it a more sacred aspect to it. I have converted it into a temple, and I gave the artists of Kalahasti their own motif. I took out the motif of Gopura, temple Gopura, from one of their paintings and used it here. And even the borders, if you can see on the left, These are typical borders of a kalamkari painting. So I used the same visual language for them to work with, and they came up with this stunningly beautiful game board. Next, after the success of this temple snakes and ladder, I wanted to do a similar game using the form of Shivalinga. But this form of Shivalinga, I was finding a little difficult because the base, the Yoni Pita, has a projecting part on the left. So I was finding it a little difficult how to accommodate that. And one fine day, I came across this Mysuru style painting, and I was overjoyed looking at that because the artist had solved that problem for me a long back, about 100 years back, and he had removed that projecting arm and made it very aesthetically symmetrical for me. And I used if you count here, there are 108 cells. So I retained the same 108 cells in my design, and the same design of Shivalinga. I added a couple of angels and made it into gave the design to the artist, and the artist gave this Shivalinga design, snakes and ladder, which is very popular. Now, when I'm working with the artist, I have to see the product, what they have already done, and using those products, I try to incorporate those design elements into the design which I'll be giving them. If you see on the left in this image, on the left, there is one snakes and ladder uh, product of it's a palm leaf etching from Raghurajpur, Orissa. I took this product, and when I turned it over leaf, I got this plain surface. Using that, I created this plain game this thing on Photoshop, plain surface, and using their own elements, I made this converted it into a game board of 5 house Chaukabara. So when the artist was given this, he was very happy because he could easily understand what I'm trying to tell him. So with this image, he came out with this product on the right. So this is the process that involves when I'm creating a game board using a traditional craft. And this is a similar product of Aduhuliata. This the one on the left is the game design which I gave, and on the right is the finished product. Next, this is a design which I gave for to the artists of Batik craftsman from Shantiniketan. I used the motif of Gandaberunda, that is double-headed eagle, to be used as motif, design motif in the game board. And the artist came up with this finished product. The Kinhala is a craft cluster which is very well known for its colorful chowkis and also dolls. The artists over there came up with these board games, very colorful board games. On the left is the Navakankari, top center is the 500 Chokabara, to the right is Aduhuli or goats and tigers. Many times, books also give me a lot of idea to work with. One of the books which I read, in that the Pagaday was known as Hastyashwaja Gavam Kreedaa. Hasti Ashwa Aja Gava or Gau Kreedaa. So Pachisi or Pagaday, it is also called in with this name. When I went deeper into it, the Hasti is elephant, Ashwa is horse, Aja is goat, Gau is cow. So when it was quite mysterious for me why they have used this name. Then I came to know the gaming pieces. The traditional gaming pieces will always have four standard colors: black, red, green, and yellow. Black represents elephant, red represents a horse, green is cow, and yellow is goat. That is the name which has been given to this game, Hastyashwaja Gavam Kreedaa. So this had me thinking, and I came up with this design, and the product which was developed is this one. Next, this is a game board done in Kasuti embroidery in Hubballi. This is Five House Chokabara. This is a marble chowki from Jaipur, and the game is a four-handed chaduranga. We have also worked with Solapur Pitlum Dari weavers from Maharashtra. Usually they do wall hangings, and we have created this very colorful board games in that craft. This is one of the earliest designs which I did. This is a palanguli or Aligulimane, as you call in Kannada, Mancala, as it is called throughout the world. This is the game board of Mancala with seven pits on each side, and these are the storing pits on either side. The two larger pits, what you can see, these are the storage pits. I asked the artist in Bangalore. He's a very good bronze worker. He works on bronze traditional lost wax process bronze casting craft. He works on that. I asked him to uh, uh, convert these storage pits in the form of a Prabhavali, that is the arch, the traditional arch which you can see around the Hindu deity. So in South India, which came out very nice, and it became quite popular. And earlier I had told you that there were some mishaps and interesting results when we have done this design intervention. What you can see here on the left, this was a product from Solapur, and Solapur Pitlum weaving. Uh, I tried to experiment this with another craft cluster. I gave this product itself to another craft cluster in Ahmedabad to make them into a game board using machine embroidery, silk machine embroidery. But interestingly, they retained the border in the same fashion as they saw in the Solapur Dari. In this Solapur Dari, the craft form, they use this kind of border when they are mixing two colors together. But the artists in Ahmedabad thought that it is the pattern which has to be retained, and they retained it in a similar way, which I found it a little amusing. And the next time I gave the same artist not a product but a design created on computer. I printed it out and gave it the one on the left. What you can see is the design given on the paper, and this artist came up with the design and the product which is on the right, very similar. So they could match almost 90% of the design which I gave. They could match it, which was quite interesting. One of the mishaps what we encountered was it can be seen here. On the left, you can see a plain game pattern. This is a game pattern of Pretwa, a game board which is from Bihar. It's a war game. When I gave this plain like this, a black and white line drawing, of this to the Kalamkari artists of Sri Kalahasti, they came up with these two varieties of game which are shown in the middle, top and bottom. They use their own imagination, and they colored different cells in different colors, variety of colors. You can see here on the top, the concentric circles are colored differently. Here the triangles are colored differently, which was not required by us. We wanted the one on the extreme right. So these are the kind of mishaps that can happen if you do not uh, uh, communicate properly with the artisans. They can interpret the design in their own way, and they come up with something some unusual results. Now moving on to the pawns, that is gaming counters that has been created by me. On the left, you can see these are the designs given by me to be worked on the wood turned lacquerware from Channapatna, and the products which were developed are shown on the right. And these pawns were created for specifically for goats and tiger game. On the top left, you see the design. On the right, you can see the product of the that design. And along with the board, when you see, it looks very beautiful. These pawns were created to be worked at Varanasi. Um, they were worked on wood, and all were hand painted. And these pawns also, they were from Varanasi. You can see we have created cute dolls, and the one over here, this is a teetotum. And on the right, you can see gaming counters in the form of bird heads, and these are very popular with kids. We always try to engage with the kids, because when they find the product, the gaming counters, or the dice, for example, this teetotum, it has to be spun like a top, and just like a lattu, and when it comes to rest, it will give out the number. So there is an interesting aspect of play with the hand also, which is very interesting. So like this, we try to involve the kids, and engage them, and make things very interesting for them. This is for kids. Now what you're seeing here, this is for collectors. These are high end products which we are working with. These are carved camel bone figurines, like musicians, in the form of musicians, and they are painted with gold foil. These are for collectors. And similar uh, uh, game counters you can see on the game board of Pagaday. And these are the varieties of dice, stick dice, and teetotums that we have come up with. There are stick dice, long dice, then cubic dice, dice made of camel bone. Then we have brass. All varieties, all varieties. There are 8 faced dice, stick dice, and the ones over here. These are wooden cowries. Nowadays, cowries have been banned. Cowrie shells have been banned. That's why we are using cowries made from wood. So we have also included that. Now the game products which we have come about. Uh, what you can see here, the game board of Pagaday has been crafted in Kalahasti. The pawns are from Varanasi, and the stick dice are from Channapatna, and the bag, which incorporates everything, this has been crafted in Mysuru. So all these things are brought together and packaged as product, like for example, what you can see here, and we package them and we uh, market them across the counter at our store as well as our exhibitions. And the name given to the exhibition is Kreedaa Kaushalya. Our Ramsons Kala Pratishtana organized the first exhibition of Kreedaa Kaushalya in 2007. And we are organizing it. And this is a brochure for that. And this is the first inaugural session of that exhibition. This was in 2008. This was in 2009. You can see the spread of the exhibition very beautifully and aesthetically displayed with a lot of game boards. And we also organize a place where we will teach the games to whoever is interested. This was in 2011. We try to show how we come across these game boards in different places, usually in village squares like this. The center of the village will have a neem tree around which a platform is built. On that platform, you can see these game boards etched on the floor on the stone slabs, and usually the elderly men, women play on these game boards. So that is what we have tried to show it here. And this was in 2013. This was the brochure in 2019. And this was the inaugural session of 2019, Kreedaa Kaushalya. So we see our products which are in use. You can see the beautiful game boards. It is a very compelling for anyone. If when they see these beautifully created game boards and pawns, they want to touch it, they feel it, they want to feel it, and they want to play with it. So that is how compelling these game boards and game accessories are. And not only that, a lot of our customers, they take these game boards, and when not in use, they use it as a home decor item as well. So this is one of our friends, Leela. She has used our game boards as interior decorative item in her house. And whenever she wants to play with, she just remove it from the wall, take it down, and play with it, and back it will go after once the game is done. So final thoughts. Kreedaa is game, Kaushalya is skill. So Kreedaa Kaushalya is the coming together of gaming tradition with the tradition of indigenous craft forms. I'm fortunate to see my designs blossoming into beautiful artifacts. Hope to design more game boards and accessories in future. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghu, for this fascinating presentation. You will see that many people in the chat box are already saying how fantastic it is. And I too must say that I am one of the beneficiaries of Kreedaa Kaushalya because my room is also full of these game boards. I think I have at least 6 now or more.
Yes, to your
So, yeah. So
We have
I,
about 31 different game board products.
I
If
will
you
soon.
add varieties, similar varieties, it will cross more than 100.
I will soon try to kind of complete my collection once I have
Sure,
enough
sure.
money. But now the floor is open for questions. Please, I mean, anybody with questions, comments, either please type in the chat box or please just ask. Just unmute yourself and ask.
So I just wanted to appreciate Raghuji. This is fascinating work, Raghuji. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank
And
you.
there's so much to learn. Really, I have no questions, but just wanted to appreciate you for the fascinating work you're doing. And of course, Shovikda for bringing it here to our conversation. I have a quick question. One is, Raghuji, early in your presentation, you talked about that particular box, which is at the Victoria and Albert Museum, I think, in the UK. And that is very similar to the covered storytelling in Rajasthan, right? Very open boxes. And
Yes.
so, Raghuji, if you could throw some light on, in your experience and in your vast sort of search across the country, how often have you found these intersections between game boards and storytelling? That is one question. And the second one is, when you mentioned that example of the Solapur Dhari, and you talked about how when you gave them the actual game board in a particular cloth, the effect was not as good as when you gave them the design on paper, right? So also I wanted to ask you, why do you think that's happening to artisans who might not be working in digital mediums but who seem to prefer digital artifacts when they are creating the game board? So those two questions, and thank you again, so much to learn, and thank you for sharing.
Um, First of all, thank you for appreciating. Um, Regarding the first question, where you said, where are there any give and take and kind of homogeneous interrelationship between games and stories? Lots of places we have come across. Usually, mythology is filled with that, and sometimes I'm really. I have to think about it. What we have tried to do when I showed that five house Chaukabara with Ramayana and Mahabharata is exactly that. While they are playing, they will also interact on the terms of who will be Rama, who will be Sita, who will be Lakshmana. I have created one game board where there are Chatur Varnas. Of course, it is a little controversial when you say Brahmana, Kshatriya, Shudra, and Vaishya are playing together. Nobody wants to be a Shudra there. So, but I have tried to incorporate it because while playing, it will tell you the story to the persons who are playing them. And also, in the case of the Chaturvarna, it will show them it's just a play. You can be Brahmana in one game. You can be a Kshatriya in another game. You can also win as a Shudra if you are willing to take a risk there. So it is not. It will also show them equanimity. So and also it will show them it is just a play. Life is just a play. You have to whatever your you have been allotted role at that moment, you are playing that. I think that is what is teaching, but the question what you have asked will require a completely different talk regarding that, because it's a whole new vista which opens up when you are seeing.
And I just wanted to add in, Raghuji, I teach at IIT Jodhpur, and I'm definitely going to invite you for that talk. So I will count on that. And what you mentioned was very interesting, because in a way I understand the controversial nature of the four Varnas, as you rightly pointed out. But I think these games also help us discover, early Vedic ideas of Varnas, which were not set in stone, which were not about birth,
Yes, yes,
right? So
they
in a
were very
sense,
fluid.
correct. So, in a sense, that fluidity of a Varna, while I am not going into the controversy about whether Varnas are right or wrong, these games are also helping us discover early Vedic or ancient texts in the correct light, right?
Yeah.
Because nowadays you see a lot of these texts being appropriated by people who don't even know that there is a difference between the Varna system in early Vedic texts and later Vedic texts. So that's
Yes.
fascinating for me. So thank you so much. Yes, please go ahead.
And regarding the second one, the Solapur game board, what you asked, that is why I always try to understand a craft form. I go there personally. I look at how a craft is being made, starting to finish. to understand the process, one. And they will, one interesting aspect is every craft form has its own language. For example, the patterns, they will have a name. Each pattern will have a name, or the process itself will have a name. For example, I showed you Navalgund Dari. They say char more jamkhana, bada more jamkhana, then bada phul jamkhana. So if I know these nomenclatures, if I'm talking over to them with on the phone, I can just say, okay, if you are not okay with that design, change more to Bada Phul. So I can communicate easily with them. That is what has happened with the Solapur Dari thing, which when we gave, they could not understand it because I did not go there. I did not go there to learn the process. I did not understand the craft form. That is how the communication gap arose, and that's the mishaps that happened, which I didn't let it happen later. I hope I answered.
No, absolutely. No,
the
I'm just
question.
fascinated because when you are designing, I'm sure, on a computer-based platform or a digital platform. And that kind of seamless transition to seeing that finished product, I'm just trying to understand, and this is not a question, more of like a thinking aloud process, that when the artisans and the craftsmen, they look at a, they're remediating, right? If you have a finished product from which they are creating a new medium, they're remediating. But when you're giving
Yes.
them a computer or digital based design, that seems to be they are more comfortable with it. I'm just fascinated by this. I'm no question, but just it's fascinating.
And one more thing is, when I'm giving them the digital medium there, I will have simplified it in such a way that they will understand it easily, clearly.
Right.
So
So what you're saying, Raghuji, is that there is no fight between the digital and the analog. They exist
no.
hand in hand together, right?
In
So the
fact, they have taken to this digital media so well. These artisans nowadays, in this lockdown, when we are interacting with them, we have given lots of commissions across India for them to work with. They have taken to digital, that is Google Pay, Phone Pay, so easily. We ourselves find it a little difficult. दे से नो सर आप फोन पे भेज दो हो जाएगा, या फिर व्हाट्सएप में आप डिजाइन भेज दो हो जाएगा. So they have taken it more naturally to this digital medium. When I see my niece, she just goes, she is 2 years old, she opens the YouTube, she scrolls down what she wants, and she puts her favorite rhyme, she listens to it. So digital medium, it has simplified life for everyone.
thank you, Raghuji. I won't monopolize the conversation, but I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
So thank you, Dibbo, for your conversation, for your questions, and again, this bringing up this whole issue of remediation, which we digital humanities scholars often talk about, and also in game studies. And I also had a similar kind of point here, which is it is really interesting that kind of people are taking to the digital so easily and so fluidly, and I think maybe the digital divide is bridged when it is made playful. With play, it is bridged. But I wanted to ask you also that there are also these digital versions of these board games, apps, and which is of course something that you don't probably make, but you are more interested in the physical version of the board game, which is also my what I'm more interested in. But nowadays there are all these digital versions of these apps like Chocabara or 9 Months Morris or tigers and goats, and maybe there can also be used to make these games popular amongst our generations who are losing access to these games. For example, like most people do not know how to play chaturanga. And the
Yes.
other game I wanted to ask you about, which you did not mention here, is Ganjifa cards. Games that are played with the Ganjifa cards, Naksh and Ganjifa, which I know that Mysore has a very rich tradition of. So
Yes.
these are two questions. I don't, but I think we are getting other questions here as well. But maybe if you can take one of these and then we can move on to the other questions.
Okay, I will answer the Ganjifa one. What we do is when we are doing the research, we try to learn a game. When we learn a game, only then we introduce the uh, game as a product in our exhibition and everywhere else. That is the reason we have not introduced Ganjifa, because we are unable to learn it. Even today, nobody has. We have not come across anybody who have taught us, who can teach us this game. So that is why we have not introduced Ganjifa.
But there are artisans in Bishnupur or in Raghurajpur where you also work, who also claim that they have the rules of Ganjifa. So they have given me a little leaflet. It is very difficult to understand, but there are many versions of the rules apparently now of Ganjifa, but we can talk about it later. I think we have other
Yes.
questions here. I think Malay is saying that we find when we find old games, how do we deduce the rules of its play? Are there any techniques? So again, very similar to this actually. How do we deduce the rules of play of the older games? And are there any techniques? For example, Malay, let me just give you one anecdote. Me and Raghuji, we were having a long telephone conversation about whether Chaturanga is played with dice or not, and we had many discussions around this. So, how do we deduce the rules of play of these old games, and are there any techniques?
Um, what we do is we do not try to invent the wheel. When we go out on a field trip, we speak with people, we interact with them, we photograph and videograph, we play with them, we photograph the game patterns, we videograph how they play with it. And usually there will be different versions. We try to teach our version to them, and we learn their version. And then we come back to our drawing table, we simplify those rules and introduce it. We do not try to just shoot an arrow in the this thing. Because we have done only one similar thing with only one game, where we came across this game pattern in a temple. Nobody knew what it was, but when we tried to play two varieties of games, that is hunt game as well as war game, and it was playable. So using the different techniques of different earlier game boards, we came up with a rule, and we called it as Sharavyuha. With only that game, we have done this kind of interpretation of a rule, but others we do not try to do that. That is the reason, as I said, we have not introduced Ganjifa. Ganjifa, the problem is different at different places. The way of playing is different, and even when we come across the rules, the way they have been instructed is very complex. We cannot understand it. So I have not been to Raghurajpur, and if I go there, I will try to find someone who can play and try to record it, and then probably we can introduce Ganjifa.
We have actually been to Bishnupur, and I have recorded the Ganjifa game being played in Bishnupur. So I can share that video recorded as well as kind of interview. But
Then it would be fantastic.
yeah, because there's the Faujdar family. The Shitol Faujdar is the head of the family now. The Faujdar family which makes these games, and they claim to have received it from locals as well as foreign scholars. So I will share it with you. But
Sure, sure.
also, are there any other questions? Please, I mean, feel
I
free to ask.
sorry, I just have a small logistical question. So I have been trying to get your book for I'm from for my university. So where do I how do I procure your book?
I will share an email ID. Please send your requirement, I will send the details on that.
Okay, thank you.
Also,
Thank you.
if anybody wants to buy these board games, actually, then I think Raghuji has a catalog, and also you can send you can ask if ask him, and if they're available, I think yeah, because that's how I have managed to get some of the fantastic kind of boards from him, really. Uh, and I strongly recommend the Kalamkari Pachisi board, the Pagaday board. But yeah, so do you have any plans regarding launching the ancient board games on digital platforms for new? Oh, this is my question basically. That
No, we are not into that. Our art foundation, Ramsons Kala Pratishtana, the main aim is to support the traditional craft forms of India. So we will do whatever we can to do this. If digital version of it will help in doing some service to these craft forms, we can do it, but that is not so. So we will not go into the digital version of it.
But since you are interested in the digital versions, Anubhav, there are many of these games which are now available on Android on the Google Play Store, including Chaturanga, and you can just download them and play them. Yeah, so there are quite a few digital versions now, and these are becoming more and more popular. But as Raghuji and I will both agree that it is very difficult to make digital versions of Chaturanga and of Ganjifa cards. But well, I will wait for the day when somebody makes a digital Ganjifa game. Uh, there was a Kickstarter project recently, but it is closed down. But yes, but there are some on Android, and you can certainly look for them. I can give you some links here as well. But are there any other questions whatsoever for Raghuji before we close? I do apologize again for the slight delay, but I'm sure that Raghuji's fantastic talk has made up for the 15 minutes that we lost. So and the fantastic kind of slides that he has shown, and the way he has kind of told us about how Ramsons Kala Pratishtana has kind of moved across different regions of India actually to kind of connect the board gaming. So
My
yeah,
apologies also.
it is what is called the ghost in the machine, Raghuji. So
And also, this was a new platform for me, so
yes,
it was kind of a.
yes. Yes. It is that is something we anticipated, but well, maybe not kind of soon enough. But any other questions? Any other questions? To be fair to ourselves, we were here half an hour in advance, really. But anyway, but okay. So I have one last question. I was very intrigued about what you said about the batik print in Shantiniketan. And so, how did that happen? I mean, that's like a very different kind of region to work in, and these games might not be local games. So, how did those artisans actually take to a different kind of game tradition? And how did you work with them? How did you manage to uh, talk to them and explain? And what was the finished product? When the finished product came out, how was it what you had expected? And so that's what I want to know, because it's also closer home, so I wanted to ask.
Again, I have not been to Shantiniketan. It was a unique. Again, we have not been to Solapur, Shantiniketan, and Raghurajpur, but still we worked with the artisans there because those artisans were working with us earlier with some other products which they were we were dealing with, like the wall hangings and in case of batik paintings. So it was quite easy to interact with them and giving them the designs and telling them what we are looking for. because we were already working with them, it was quite easy to deal in those terms. And we just had to change the design, and they understood. And we told us, keep it simple, don't make it complex. And they sent the samples, and we approved the samples. And once we approved, they started the production. So it was because we already had a previous working relationship. So it happened quite organically.
So with that, thank you very much. That's so interesting that how the organic kind of how organically these things have managed to happen. And I kind of again once again on behalf of Game Studies India, all our members and all our well participants here, I am really grateful that you could make it, and also I mean we have already put up in the chat box the link to our Facebook page, which is GSI India Adda, and also our WhatsApp group. If you have if you wish to join us, please do click on the link and you can join our WhatsApp group as well. We have regular events here, bi-weekly or sometimes even weekly. uh, Games at the moment they seem to be much in the news, uh, and they're also very active. So I again kind of once again take this opportunity to thank Kreedaa Kaushalya. Again, note the name, it combines skill as well as kind of gaming. So games are kind of very important, about a lot of skill, and we should try to revive them. We should try to play more of our own kind of heritage games maybe. So thank you very much again. Fascinating talk, Raghuji, and
Thank
we
you.
hope to
Thank you
keep in
for
touch.
having me.
And I have a personal request, which is that if you find Ganjifa cards of Mysore, please let me know. I want to get my own set because that is the only Ganjifa card set that I don't have. I have Vishnupur,
Sure.
Raghuraj, Samantwadi, but yeah. So someday. And please, I think, please feel free to contact Raghuji. As you can see, he's extremely friendly and extremely knowledgeable about board games. So yeah, and hopefully we will see more of you again in Game Studies India and in other platforms. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Suvik ji. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I'm ending the